What would happen if one presidential announcement shook not just Wall Street, but Ottawa, Berlin, Tokyo, and Silicon Valley all at once? What if tariffs weren't just trade policy tools, but chess pieces in a high-stakes global game that could tip economies into recession, or reposition them for dominance? And what if the real battleground wasn't in steel plants or shipping ports, but in server farms, cloud infrastructure, and digital taxes targeting big tech? Welcome to the new global economic showdown. On May 30th, during a fiery speech at U.S. Steel's Mon Valley Works in Pennsylvania, President Donald Trump doubled down, literally, on one of the most controversial policies of his political playbook. He announced that effective June 4th, tariffs on imported steel would leap from 25% to 50%. Not 5%. Not 10%. A full 50%. This wasn't a leak, a trial balloon, or a policy memo. It was delivered directly to the faces of American steelworkers, who cheered as Trump declared, at 25% they can sort of get over the fence. At 50%, they can no longer get over the fence. That fence, of course, is economic protectionism. But will it keep American jobs in, or keep innovation and investment out? And here's where it gets even more dramatic. Trump, who just months ago opposed the Japanese acquisition of U.S. steel by Nippon Steel, has now flipped positions. Not only does he support the $14 billion deal, he insists it will preserve American control and strengthen national industry. As a cherry on top, he promised every single U.S. steel employee a $5,000 bonus. No layoffs. No outsourcing. The crowd roared. But global markets winced. Because this isn't just policy. It's provocation. Within hours, Canada struck back. Statistics Canada revealed that in Q1 2025 alone, import duty payments surged 39%, up by nearly $400 million. Why? Because in March, Ottawa imposed sweeping retaliatory tariffs targeting U.S. exports, steel, aluminum, and dozens of other American-made goods. Prime Minister Mark Carney's economic platform projects up to 20 billion Canadian dollars in tariff revenue for this fiscal year alone. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne confirmed that 70% of those countermeasures remain in place, covering a staggering 42 billion Canadian dollar worth of U.S. exports. These numbers aren't just for show. They are being used to fund Canada's economic strategy, investments in growth, green energy, infrastructure, and supply chain resilience. And behind those dollar signs are real impacts. If you're a U.S. farmer, car manufacturer, or even a tech distributor, those Canadian tariffs could mean fewer exports, tighter margins, and shrinking sales. But here's the curveball: Canada's economy isn't cracking. It's accelerating. In Q1 2025, Canada's GDP grew at an annualized rate of 2.2%, beating analyst forecasts, and even the Bank of Canada's own estimate of 1.8%. Why? Because Canadian exporters moved fast. Vehicle exports jumped nearly 17%. Industrial machinery shipments rose 12%. Firms raced to get goods across the border before Trump's new tariffs took effect. However, don't mistake this export boom for a free ride. Canadian household spending slowed dramatically, from 1.2% in late 2024 to just 0.3% in Q1. Big-ticket purchases like vehicles fell sharply. Savings rates dipped to 5.7%, their lowest in over a year. And real estate investment is cooling. Ownership transfer costs, a leading indicator of housing market momentum, plummeted nearly 19%. So, even as Canada celebrates a short-term trade surplus, there's a looming question: is this just a sugar high before the crash? On the US side, things are shifting fast. And not always in the direction you'd expect. In April 2025, following Trump's sweeping tariffs, nicknamed Liberation Day by the administration, U.S. goods imports didn't just slow, they collapsed. A 19.8% decline marked the steepest monthly drop since the early 90s. It wasn't just Chinese imports or steel and aluminum. It was everything. That historic plunge in imports led to a dramatic narrowing of the trade deficit, down 46% to $87.6 billion. Sounds good, right? But here's the reality: the drop in imports came not from rising domestic production, but from businesses front-loading purchases and then freezing. Exports rose modestly, just 3.4%. Meanwhile, consumer spending grew just 0.2% in April, down from 0.7% in March. It's a sign that American households are growing cautious, worried, uncertain. And when consumers, who drive nearly 70% of the economy, tighten their wallets, it ripples across every sector. Even more telling, the US economy shrank in Q1 2025. A 0.2% contraction may seem minor, but it's symbolic. It's the first quarterly decline in 3 years. And the reasons behind it. Telling. Net trade shaved nearly 5 percentage points off growth. Federal government spending declined 4.6%, the sharpest drop in 3 years, amid budget tightening and layoffs. And while business investment surged by 24.4%, it was mostly companies stockpiling inventory to get ahead of rising import costs. Is that real growth? Or just fear in disguise? Amid all this, the Fed faces a tightrope. Inflation isn't out of control. Core PCE rose just 0.1% in April, and 2.5% year-over-year. That's squarely within the Fed's target zone. But the economic contraction and slowdown in consumer spending may soon outweigh inflation concerns. So what does the Fed do? Cut rates and risk fueling new asset bubbles, or stay put and risk a deeper slowdown? And while all eyes were on North America, Europe quietly launched its own salvo. In Berlin, Culture Minister Wolfram Weimer made waves. Germany is drafting legislation for a 10% digital services tax, double Austria's model. It targets the very platforms that dominate Europe's digital economy: Google, Meta, Apple, Amazon. The message is bold: if you profit from our people, our content, our culture, you're going to pay for it. This comes as US digital giants rake in billions from the region. Meta earned over $38 billion from Europe in 2024, while Google's EMEA operations crossed $100 billion. YouTube ads alone grew 13%. Apple's European net sales topped $101 billion, with services like iCloud and Apple Music growing by double digits. Amazon's EU footprint continues to expand, especially in Germany, the UK, and emerging markets like Poland and Spain. But these revenues are now under threat. Germany's new tax could spark a retaliatory strike from the US. Section 899 of a newly passed U.S. tax law empowers the Treasury to impose punitive taxes on countries that target U.S. firms with digital levies. If Trump responds with counter-duties, the US-EU trade relationship could face its worst strain in years. So here's the million-dollar question: can the digital economy survive a full-blown transatlantic tax war? Let's zoom out. The world is standing at a trade crossroads. For the U.S., Trump's new tariffs may win political points in swing states, but they also risk cutting the country off from key imports, just as industries attempt to modernize and decarbonize. Will the strategy yield a more resilient domestic supply chain? Or leave the US vulnerable to costlier inputs and slower innovation? For Canada, the challenge is turning short-term tariff windfalls and export surges into lasting advantages. That means channeling revenues into infrastructure, workforce training, and trade diversification, especially toward Asia-Pacific and post-Brexit UK markets. Can Ottawa seize this moment, or will it be dragged down by its neighbours' unpredictability? And for Europe, the future of digital sovereignty hangs in the balance. Can Brussels and Berlin craft digital taxes that support journalism, respect user data, and don't collapse under US pressure? Can the EU maintain its leadership as a regulatory superpower while remaining an attractive market for American innovation? None of this is happening in a vacuum. Behind every policy is a voter, a consumer, a worker. And the decisions made in 2025 will shape elections, corporate strategy, and global alliances for years to come. So where do you stand? Do you believe Trump's tariff hikes will actually bring back American manufacturing? Or is it a 20th century answer to a 21st century problem? Should Canada keep up its retaliatory measures, or seek detent? And can Germany really take on big tech without risking economic retaliation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from real people navigating this real-world uncertainty. And if you found this video valuable, if it opened your eyes to the unseen mechanics of today's economy, then please give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story like this. We bring you global context, sharp analysis, and facts that help you think for yourself. Thanks for being part of this journey. This isn't just trade policy, it's a turning point. And we are only just getting started.